Good evening. A familiar and troubling scene in Brampton. 2 tow trucks torched overnight.
Peel police say the fires were deliberately set. The incidents caught on camera. The owners of the trucks say they don't know why they were targeted. CTV's Janice Golding's been following this story and joins us live from the scene with the latest. Janice.
Hi, Nathan. As you might be able to see behind us here, it is still quite a mess. This is what was left behind after the latest arson involving tow trucks on this stretch of roadway in just over a week. Surveillance video appears to show a man light something in his hand on fire before he tosses it toward a red heavy tow truck. Flames immediately engulfed the tires of that truck and quickly spread to surrounding vehicles, including another heavy tow truck. But the video doesn't show a second suspect.
Both individuals were seen pouring gasoline on and around the heavy tow trucks.
Harnek Sahoda has owned the black tow truck for 7 years. It's the only one he has.
It's very bad for towing business.
The latest operator to have his truck set on fire along this stretch of Rutherford Road this month.
I'm very angry. I was expecting that because I always park my truck there. I never had any issue with anyone.
While they don't have any evidence that the incidents are related, police say they're looking into a possible connection.
Given the fact that it is tow trucks that were targeted, the timing and the location makes our investigators look at comparisons between the two.
This morning's fire at Rutherford and Norenda started at 3:15 a.m. The one earlier this month at Rutherford and Glidden began at 3:30. The latest tow truck set ablaze in southern Ontario in recent years, targeted in an alleged tow truck turf war.
To be honest, even last night, I had a dream that someone, fired on my tow truck.
Tow truck operators are scared, while others who aren't even in the business are also being impacted.
There is no my fault.
Harded owns a white food delivery truck that was involved in this morning's fire.
See, the box is totally damaged, so minimum $30,000-$40,000. And even like for 3-4 weeks, I'm out of my job. I have only one truck.
Meanwhile, Jesse Singh is the mechanic who was working on the red tow truck that was set ablaze.
We feel bad, man. I mean, it's bad in Brampton. I don't know what's going on right now.
The investigations continue. After starting the blaze, both suspects were captured on camera fleeing in a southbound direction. Also captured on surveillance video, a number of vehicles traveling along Rutherford. So police are hoping that anyone who may have captured dash cam video will contact them as soon as possible. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Nathan.
Thank you, Janice. Meanwhile, in York Region, police are investigating after a home was shot up twice in 2 days.
The latest occurrence happening Sunday evening. No one was hurt, but those who live in the neighborhood are shaken. CTV's Jan.13 has the details.
A car pulls up to a home in King Township. Shortly after parking, a person exits and fires indiscriminately at a house, leaving visible bullet holes. And it didn't just happen once, but twice in 2 days.
Both of these shootings occurred at the same residence.
This video was taken Sunday evening just before 8 p.m. Several shots fired at the home on Rhea Court near Dufferin, south of King Road.
This morning, shortly after 5 a.m., we responded to that same residence now for another incident.
According to police, the suspect banged on the front door before opening fire this morning. A neighbor who did not want to appear on camera says nearly 20 shots were fired at the house.
The fact that they'd be coming back to this house in such short order is fairly brazen, particularly when the first incident's still under investigation.
Police say no one was injured in either shooting and the homeowner is cooperating. Also, the home in question has numerous security cameras, as do most of the houses on this section of the street. This is just the latest incident where a suspect has fired at a home.
Bang, 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 bang.
Last week, we showed you 2 houses that have been shot at in Richmond Hill, and this footage of a home being shot at in Brampton was actually sent to the homeowner by the suspects. York police say while the motive is unclear, the action appears to be intimidation.
It really speaks to the fact that some sort of message is trying to be passed on.
The car used in the Sunday shooting is described by police as a dark sedan, while the vehicle used in this morning's shooting is described as red. And while they try to identify the suspects, anyone with dash cam footage or security footage they think might be related are asked to contact York Regional Police. Jan.13, CTV News.
Now, those instances of gunfire and tow trucks being torched are raising renewed concerns tonight about a larger pattern of violence and intimidation in the GTA.
Representatives from all levels of government gathered in Peel Region for a summit to address a growing trend of extortion-related crimes. CTV's John Musselman reports on the efforts to crack down.
The cases can be terrifying for the victims. Bullets fired into homes like this one we reported on in Brampton last week, and windows smashed out by gunfire at a trucking business like this one in neighboring Caledon. Just the most recent examples of extortion threats that Peel police say now average about 2 per week.
What has made Peel Region such a vibrant and beautiful place to be has also allowed for certain elements to exploit vulnerabilities in our community.
To fight back, federal, municipal, and local politicians gathered for a summit in Brampton today on combating extortion. The federal government will provide $1 million in new funding to help Peel Police crack down on extortion crimes.
A cowardly act that's meant to insert fear in individuals. One, where families are impacted, oftentimes moving out of their home, moving out of their community, and with the expectation that they will pay.
At first, officials say the extortion threats began by targeting successful businesses and people, but it has since expanded to include just about everyone. It is described as organized crime, and in some cases, officials say the suspects are taking direction from gangs in India and targeting Peel's South Asian community.
And oftentimes they are connecting themselves to some type of popular organized gang that has roots in India or here. What we found from investigations is that extortions are taking place, but the motive and who they are connected to ranges.
Some of the extortion threats include phone calls, text messages, and threats posted on social media platforms. Peel Police created an extortion investigative task force back in 2023. Some of today's funding will provide support to victims of these extortion cases. John Musselman, CTV News in Brampton.
Also tonight, gathered by the hundreds in downtown Toronto, fearing for their loved ones half a world away. Demonstrators rally for Iran, calling for freedom and help from U.S. President Donald Trump.
But first, we take a live look outside as we look into the forecast on this Tuesday. The day started dry, but wet weather has moved in. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at what we're working with tonight. Is it snow? Is it rain?
Well, it really depends on where you are, Michelle. We did have some rain in some areas thanks to...
Sorry, Lindsay, your mic's not working at this point. We'll get that fixed. And in the meantime, we'll show you this, the scene along University Avenue over the noon hour as many people march, hundreds, maybe thousands, in opposition to the Iranian regime. The rally was organized by members of Toronto's Iranian community. And CTV's Rahim Ladani was among that crowd today. And Rahim, many of those who turned out have very personal connections to what is happening in Iran right now.
Hi, Michelle. Yes, you're absolutely right. We're in front of the U.S. consulate where for several hours this afternoon, this entire section was flooded with people. Some of them were visibly upset, others shedding tears, everyone standing in solidarity with the people of Iran. Demanding change halfway around the world. Demonstrators in downtown Toronto took to the streets Tuesday, saying the violence unfolding in Iran isn't just a global story, it's also personal.
I have no news from my family. My brother, my sisters live in Iran.
Layla Mohammadi is an Iranian Canadian who came to Canada in 1987, and she hasn't been able to go back to her homeland since.
My dad passed away 4 years ago, and the reason why we were separated was because of this regime. I would love my kids to see Iran again, you know? I mean, I would love to see Iran again. That's like something in a dream for me.
The group of demonstrators has now swelled well into the thousands. They have spilled over onto University Avenue and have shut down the entire roadway from Queen to Dundas. And they have stopped just shy here in front of the U.S. consulate, where there continues to be a heavy police presence. Trump, act now! Trump, act now! For several hours, demonstrators chanted for U.S. President Donald Trump to intervene in the conflict after Trump threatened military action.
People's call for Donald Trump to intervene is not about internal politics in the U.S. It's about common sense. People are on the streets being killed. Whoever listens to their call will be appreciated by the people.
However, some admit they don't know if the president has the best interest of Iranians in mind.
Actually, we don't have any other choice. We hold our hands to somebody to help us.
And that call for help is also being extended to all Canadians.
We're not fighting just for Iran. We're fighting for freedom everywhere. And if people don't stand with us now, more of us are going to get killed.
Urging Canadians not to look away. Now, as you saw in the story, there was a heavy police presence, and the officers did a commendable job between balancing the people's right to peacefully protest and their safety. There was one minor interaction, but by and large, this was a passionate but peaceful protest. Also, in terms of traffic, all of the lanes here on University Avenue are now open. Reporting live, I'm Raheem Ladani. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Raheem. And still ahead, the latest on the situation in Iran, where the death toll from the violent crackdown has risen dramatically. Plus, President Trump's message for protesters as he pledges help is on the way.
But first, back here in the city, Lindsay Morrison has a look at the current conditions. Lindsay.
Yeah, Michelle, it's nice to connect with you, for you to be able to hear me too, because there's lots to talk about when it comes to the forecast over the next couple of days. Depending on where you're joining us from, you might have seen rain this evening or perhaps some wet snow. Now, this is all just starting to move out of the GTA. If you're in the east end of Durham region, you might still be encountering a little bit of active weather, but we're drying out downtown and for the west end of the GTA. At least for now, more active weather is possible as we make our way through the late evening, some drizzle expected too, and then some snow in the coming days. But right now, we're in what's called the warm sector. It is 4 degrees at Pearson Airport, milder than it was at the beginning of the day and certainly midday as well. We've got gusty winds out of the southwest. Look at that, clocking in close to 60 kilometers per hour. But again, it's a southwest wind. Tomorrow, those winds are going to change direction and will be coming out of the northwest. That's going to cool things down dramatically. Overnight tonight, though, the temperature holds steady near about 3 degrees. Again, the possibility of drizzle right into tomorrow morning before the temperature starts to take a tumble. And then we'll see the change over to some snow, maybe a little bit of measurable snow here in the GTA, and certainly for the snow belts. Long-range forecast looks cold as well. We'll take you through everything you need to know in the 7-day. That's coming up. For now, though, Nathan, I'll send it over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Toronto police are investigating the discovery of human remains behind a business near Kipling and Rexdale Boulevard. Police were called to the area just before 11 this morning for reports of a sudden death. Police and forensic investigators could be seen examining a wooded area near what appears to be a small encampment. Police say at this point they don't know how the person died and won't have any more information until after an autopsy has been completed.
An off-duty York Regional Police officer was one of 2 people injured in a crash on the 400 in Bradford. Police say the crash between a transport truck, a pickup truck, and an SUV happened around 3:45 this morning. The off-duty officer and another person went to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries.
The accused money man for drug trafficking organization connected to former Olympian Ryan Wedding bought a $4 million home in the Greater Toronto area shortly before he was arrested late last year. And that was one of the facts that emerged in testimony today at the bail hearing for Roland Sokolowski, accused of being a money launderer for Wedding through his luxury brokerage called Diamond Czar, based out of a UPS mailbox in Thornhill. The court heard he declared a personal income of $0 for the past few years.
More charges have been laid against a Welland man accused of shooting a Niagara police officer and being involved in a day-long standoff. 59-year-old Daniel Tronco now facing 20 charges, including 6 counts of attempted murder with a firearm in connection with the incident on the morning of December 19th. Police say officers responded to a home on 2nd Street to assist with bylaw enforcement when shots were fired. An officer was hit in the chest, but fortunately she survived. The suspect then barricaded himself in a home for about 24 hours before surrendering.
Mayor Olivia Chow is talking about her proposed 2026 budget today, including how it will help Toronto renters. Chow says the budget will provide $10.8 million for the rent bank, which is almost double the amount since she took office in 2023. The rent bank provides grants to help tenants make their monthly payments, cover arrears, or secure new housing. The mayor says the budget will also include money to prevent evictions for more than 1,000 households through case management rent subsidies.
Rent Bank is part of the anti-homelessness initiative at the City of Toronto.
almost 9,000 people, representing 4,500 households across the city, find support to keep them housed through the city's eviction prevention and community program and the housing benefit program.
Housing is good health care. We know from decades of research that people who are chronically unhoused live half as long as the general public. So that's 30 to 40 birthdays that people are foregoing. This is the most powerful social determinant of health that we see in the clinical and population health realm. And it's unimaginable for people to think about a loved one losing 10 to 20 or 30 years of life.
The mayor says the increased funding for the rent bank will support 2,800 families in the city.
Premier Doug Ford is responding to feedback from frustrated transit riders when it comes to the new Finch West LRT.
You always have kinks in the rails, excuse my pun there, but once they start moving, they'll start moving pretty smoothly. But I always, rather than always talking about the negative, I like talking about the positive. As I was telling our friends from Michigan that we're building the largest transit system in North America.
These comments come after a switch issue during yesterday's morning rush that took several hours to restore. The LRT has suffered numerous disruptions since opening in December and been the subject of complaints that it is slower than bus service. And meantime, there's still no confirmation on when the Eglinton Crosstown LRT will finally open. The Premier also talked about electric vehicles today, urging the federal government not to get rid of EV tariffs against China.
Donald Trump also doesn't want cheap Chinese electric vehicles in the market and made it clear again today where cars should be built. CTV's Abigail Beeman reports.
The U.S. president toured a Ford factory close to our border in Detroit and gave upcoming CUSMA trade talks a shrug.
It's irrelevant to me. Canada would love it. Canada wants it. They need it because we don't need Canada product. That's the thing. You know, I want to be a nice person, but we don't need. I want to build the cars here, not in Canada.
Donald Trump also doesn't want cheap Chinese EVs.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And flanked by Michigan lawmakers, Ontario Premier Doug Ford urged Mark Carney not to back down on Canada's 100% tariff on them during his trip to China.
It would not be good for Ontario and Canada, and it sure the heck wouldn't be good for the U.S., and it wouldn't be good when it comes to negotiating with President Trump.
Canadian government sources say to expect some progress on punishing canola tariffs, which China slapped on in retaliation for the EVs.
They've been absolutely devastating to the industry. We've lost over $1 billion Canada-wide. Frankly, just even for my farm, I'm just under $100,000 myself, and that really hurts.
But with Saskatchewan's premier now joining for some Beijing meetings.
Would you take Mo if you didn't expect some relief, some schedule of lower tariffs on canola? Probably not.
Many are wondering if that means EV concessions are on the table.
China's being very savvy in the way that it's picked areas to tariff to pit one region of the country against another. I think premiers have been very restrained in terms of their approach on this, in terms of not trying to divide the country against itself.
In a briefing ahead of the Prime Minister's China trip, federal government sources spoke of addressing trade irritants on both sides systematically, but wouldn't share details on conversations around canola or EVs. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Ottawa.
Back to our coverage of the situation in Iran. For the first time in days, some Canadians have been able to speak by phone to loved ones in that country, though internet remains cut off. This comes as the number of people killed in the protests that have been met with brutal force jumps dramatically. CTV's Heather Wright reports.
These are some of the images airing on Iranian state TV, which are said to show the aftermath of nationwide protests that have been met with brutal force. For the first time, authorities have given an overall death toll, 2,000 people killed, while also blaming the United States and Israel of inciting the protests.
The young one, they will participate.
Dr. Shahram Azam knows just how ruthless the Iranian regime can be. He was a doctor in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps when in 2003, the regime arrested Canadian photojournalist Zara Kazemi, who was later brought to his hospital. He says Kazemi was missing fingernails, had a broken nose, and her skull was fractured. There were also signs of rape. She later died.
There wasn't any chance it happens by accident. At least she was beaten, if not torture.
In 2005, Azam, his wife and daughter fled to Sweden and applied for asylum in Canada. In the 2 decades since he left, he's watched protests unfold in his home country, all met with brutal force. But he says these protests, happening in both big cities and small towns, feel different.
And I hope it's the end of this brutality, this regime, and these things happening to my people.
The extent of the protests and subsequent crackdowns in Iran are difficult to gauge as internet remains cut off and phone service is spotty. Protests have also spread to cities around the world, including here in Toronto, where this afternoon members of the Iranian community gathered outside the U.S. consulate. Today, U.S. President Donald Trump told protesters in Iran that help is on the way, but declined to clarify what that means.
Trump has vowed to intervene militarily on behalf of the protesters, encouraging them to keep demonstrating. While the U.S. had previously said they wanted to find a diplomatic solution, today Trump said all meetings with Iranian officials have been canceled. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
Russia launched a second major drone and missile attack on Ukraine in 4 days, striking several cities. One attack in the northeastern Kharkiv region killed 4 people. Elsewhere, several 100,000 households were without power in the Kyiv region. Ukrainian officials say the strikes focused on the power grid amid freezing temperatures. The capital has grappled with severe electricity shortages for days, but the mayor says last night's strikes caused the biggest power outage the city has faced so far.
Greenland's prime minister made it very clear today his country chooses Denmark over the United States. Jan.13 Nielsen met with his Danish counterpart, insisting that Greenland does not want to be owned or controlled by the U.S., and suggested the hardest part lies ahead. A government minister added that it is unfathomable America is discussing taking over a NATO ally, and says people on the island are very worried. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance will host a meeting with his Greenlandic counterpart in Washington tomorrow. A bipartisan U.S. congressional delegation is headed to Copenhagen later this week to show unity with Denmark.
Scientists with the U.S. Geological Survey are keeping an eye on an active volcano in Hawaii. Lava is continuing to fountain inside the crater of the Kilauea volcano, reaching heights of about 250 meters. The next such episode is expected in about 2 weeks. But more data is needed to get a better forecast. The movement of flows will likely continue for the next several days. One of the most active volcanoes has been erupting periodically since December 23, 2024. Kilauea is located in a closed area of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park.
Coming up, getting cosmetic surgery abroad. Despite the warnings and potential life-changing complications, part 2 of our series on Canadian medical tourism.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, if you're rented, your monthly rental costs go up on January 1st. In Ontario, there's a rent cap this year of 2.1%. But if you live in a retirement home, companies can raise the rent by whatever they want. I'll have that story. That's just ahead.
So we are going to go from about 2 degrees tomorrow morning to minus 12 degrees overnight and into Thursday. And that's the core temperature. It's going to feel like the minus 20s once you take the winds into consideration. Environment Canada issuing snow squall watches, yellow level alerts. And that's because it's going to become pretty active over the next couple of days, especially in those snowbelt areas. And hey, a heads up for you. Looks like you could be in for a period of snow into Friday morning. We'll take you through the weather forecast after this.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400. From your screen to ours. Text 10400.
Ontario landlords were able to charge an increase in rent on January 1st. The cap for 2026 was set at 2.1%.
There are some exemptions to the cap, such as buildings constructed after November 2018, and also for those living in retirement residences. Here's Pat Foran with a consumer alert.
Thanks, Michelle and Nathan. In Ontario, there is no rate cap on how much retirement homes can charge for total monthly fees. That's the rent and services combined. That means they can raise the monthly bill by whatever they want, and advocates say that's not fair.
What did you think when you found out it's going to be almost 4% instead of 2.1%?
Well, it made me sick. It made me sick.
89-year-old Estelle Arlo has lived at Venvie Don Mills Seniors Apartments for the past 16 years. She was expecting her rent to increase 2.1% under this year's rent guideline, but was shocked to get a notice her rent would be going up 3.99%.
I think it's a big cash grab.
Arlo's monthly rent was just increased from $3,784 to over $3,900. The fee includes TV, phone, internet, and the opportunity to visit a physician on site. But she buys her own groceries and makes her own food. She believes the increase is not justified.
I was just flummoxed. I couldn't believe it.
The building is managed by Coger Senior Living, which told CTV News of the total 4% increase indicated, 2.1% applies to rent, while the remaining portion relates to services. We recognize any increase can be difficult, particularly for those on fixed incomes.
The landlord has the ability to really increase the overall charge by whatever they want.
The Advocacy Center for the Elderly says retirement homes must adhere to the rent cap on the rent portion of the monthly bill. However, for other services in retirement homes, there is no cap. Advocates say there should be to protect seniors.
Older adults living in retirement home accommodation are often on fixed incomes, and they simply can't afford to pay exorbitant increases.
The Federation of Metro Tenants Associations says seniors risk homelessness if their rents rise too quickly.
We need to have regulation in place that is able to help tenants that are suffering under these economic conditions.
It's a lot of money still.
I know, and I don't have it.
Arlo says she'll now have to cut costs to pay her rent and says the government should introduce a cap on retirement home services to protect seniors from being overcharged. And if you're searching for an apartment, you should also ask how old it is. Units built after November 2018 are not subject to rent caps, and in these newer buildings, landlords can also raise the rent to whatever they want. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
All right, weather-wise, things are, I guess you can call it comfortable, but don't get too comfortable.
I know we're anticipating a plunge this week, but it isn't happening yet.
No, about this time tomorrow, though, we are going to be on a downward slide temperature-wise, and it's really just one day that's going to be particularly cold. But then in the long range, it looks as though things will be a little unsettled, too. So let me show you what it looked like a little earlier this afternoon. This was in the Markham Road and Shepherd area of Toronto. A pretty gray, overcast day. And it was dry for the most part until the late afternoon when a round of showers and in some cases wet snow moved through. No surprise there that we had some mixed precipitation because it is quite mild out there. Here's a look at the current temperatures. Much colder in northern Ontario compared to the south. And this cold air is headed our way, but it's 4 degrees this hour at Pearson Airport. And we're really only going to drop about a degree through the overnight hours tonight. Holding steady at around 3 for the low. Just wanted to throw that -10 on there just to show you where we expect to be at this time of year. So that's our seasonal average as far as an overnight low is concerned. Tomorrow, okay, so what we've done here is we've shown you the morning temperature, that's the big one, compared to the night temperature. So 0 degrees to start off the day tomorrow in Guelph, -14 degrees at night. And it's a pretty significant drop in many areas. Also want to point out Huntsville here. Tomorrow morning, -1 degree. Overnight into Thursday, -20. And then you take the winds into consideration, it's going to feel even colder than that. More on the temperatures in just a moment, but here's a look at the satellite and radar. You can see a couple little areas of pink where there was some mixing happening. For the most part, the wet snow, wet weather and snowy weather has moved out of the GTA for now. We're likely to see a little bit more as this low wraps around. We're in the warm sector right now, but a cold front does swing through tomorrow. that is going to signal our big change. So we go from southwest winds to northwest winds. Any drizzle likely to turn to flurries. And then, of course, the temperature taking a big tumble. Let's talk also about the snow that's expected once again in the snowbelt areas, especially along the shorelines of Lake Huron, but also around Georgian Bay. An additional 15 to 30 centimeters expected for Wednesday and for Thursday, courtesy of those winds kicking in, the lake effect machine firing back up again. There's midday, there's the cold front swinging through, and behind that, northwest winds, colder air. You can see those lake effect bands forming for the day on Thursday. Also want to give you a little bit of a heads up for Friday. It is still several days out, but right now it looks like we could get into a few periods of snow for Friday morning, possibly impacting the morning commute. Ahead of that, perhaps a trace to 2 centimeters of snow around Toronto. This is for tomorrow and for Thursday. And then you factor in Friday, perhaps an additional couple of centimeters as a result of that. And once again, snowbelt areas and the Ottawa Valley going to see the worst of the snow this time around. Next 3 days look like this. What a change temperature-wise. Friday, though, we are back to seasonal. Thursday, we're not going to get much warmer than about -8 degrees for the high. Wind chill, -17. Here's the weekend forecast. In addition to the periods of snow flurries over the weekend, and then much colder air for next week, too. That's your weather for now. Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Also tonight, proof of what the community can accomplish when it works together. Food Banks Mississauga surpasses its winter fundraising goal, but is now focused on the rest of the year.
As we showed you last night, sepsis resulting from a mommy makeover in Costa Rica almost killed Nicole Grigorov.
Now, as she learns to live without the use of fingers or toes, she and the medical community want to make sure others are fully informed. Health reporter Pauline Chan has part 2 of her series on Canadian medical tourism.
Nicole Grigorov's medical tourism trip resulted in more than a tummy tuck and breast lift. Sepsis led to the amputation of her fingers and toes.
To be honest, Pauline, when I saw my fingers and my toes for the first time in Costa Rica, I knew, I wasn't going to be able to keep them. They were black.
Doctors Ron Simoji and Corey Goldberg say they're treating a growing number of overseas procedures gone wrong.
If not every week, it's every other week that I see a patient that's gone out of Canada for their cosmetic surgery and has come back with some kind of problem.
As the market for surgery abroad has increased, the number of complications that we're seeing regularly has increased as well.
And while they don't often see the kind of life-threatening complications that Nicole Grigorov suffered, many of the problems can be permanent.
They had given her what I would argue is a male hairline and a very low one at that. And she was in tears and asked, please, can you reverse this? Once that's done, you can't.
It's self-serving to say patients should come and have surgery with a Canadian plastic surgeon. But the reality is, to us, there's absolutely nothing more important than the patient's safety.
Dr. Simoji says overseas clinics may accept patients who otherwise might not be approved for surgery here due to weight or other health concerns. Other countries also have different products and standards for things such as implants or even sutures.
With cosmetic surgery, good cosmetic surgery, the pillar of care is really the follow-up. And that's what we sort of stress to patients is if they're going out of country, by the time they come back to Canada, they don't have their surgeon there anymore.
Follow-up care for cosmetic surgery can take months as the body heals and settles, but medical tourists won't be abroad for that time, so it falls on the Canadian health system to fix any problems that result.
So for my recent patient that was admitted to hospital for 5 days, CT scans, drainage procedures, a drain being placed, multiple days in hospital. These are thousands of dollars of OHIP funds, and it's a huge burden, huge burden.
In the final part of our series, we'll look at some of the legal issues surrounding cosmetic surgery abroad and why so many Canadians are still choosing to go despite the warnings. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
A big win for Food Banks Mississauga tonight. Its annual holiday fundraising campaign brought in a record number of donations.
But as Beth McDonnell reports, the work to help those in need is far from over.
This is inside our fridge. Lots of good fruit and vegetables. Peppers here today.
As CEO of Food Banks Mississauga, Megan Nichols leads an organization helping feed nearly 50,000 people in the city. But right now, there is one reason to celebrate. The 2025 holiday drive surpassed its goal, raising close to $3.2 million.
That's incredible. The community has never given that much money in this period before, and I live in this city. I'm proud of my neighbors.
Nichols says the success of the campaign means the food bank will get through the winter months, but much more fundraising is still required for the rest of the year. Need has grown by 400% since before the pandemic.
What it used to be before the pandemic was folks would visit 3, 4, 5 times in a year, maybe when a job ended or they had an emergency expense. And now we're seeing people come to the food bank 10, 11, 12 times a year because their financial situation is an emergency every single month.
Sakina Samar Ibrahim worked on the holiday campaign. She says a big part of fundraising is doing education around food insecurity.
For every dollar donated to Food Banks Mississauga equates to food for one meal. So I'm grateful to the community for coming together and for supporting that, because that is a lot of families who will see food on their tables.
Nichols attributes the success of the drive to years of messaging around how need is playing out. Canada's food price report found the average family of 4 is expected to spend more than $17,000 on food in 2026.
The gap between minimum wage and a living wage, what it actually costs to live, is about $10 an hour. And so we see people in a variety of circumstances. At the end of the day, it's just that they don't have enough money to purchase all the necessities they need for their household.
Beans, craft dinner.
To decrease poverty and food bank use, Nichols urges people to push for government changes so the most vulnerable don't fall further behind. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Scott Adams, the creator of the popular comic strip Dilbert, has died. In May, Adams announced he was diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. His comic strip ran from the 90s until 2023, when Adams faced backlash over racist comments he made. Adams' ex-wife announced his death on YouTube. He was 68 years old.
One of the biggest musical acts on the planet is coming to Toronto this summer. BTS announced a world tour today. There'll be more than 70 dates from April 2026 to March 2027. It will include 2 shows at Toronto's Rogers Stadium, August 22nd and 23rd. It's the first tour for the K-pop group since 2021-2022. BTS has been on a nearly 4-year hiatus while all members completed South Korea's mandatory military service.
After the break, assaulting flight attendants, smoking marijuana on board, and indecent exposure. Transport Canada reveals 2025's most disruptive passenger behaviors. The U.S. president commented on the North American Free Trade Agreement that is up for negotiation this year. Ben and Bloomberg's Morella Fernandez has the latest.
The U.S. president says the trade deal negotiated during his last term in office is now irrelevant. Trump was touring a Michigan Ford plant today when he spoke about CUSMA, saying, "We could have it or not, it wouldn't matter." The deal is supposed to be reviewed this year, but Washington called off early negotiations late last year after an Ontario-sponsored ad campaign about tariffs upset the U.S. president. Algoma Steel says it expects fourth-quarter losses of between $95 and $105 million. The Ontario-based firm has been hit hard by a 50% U.S. tariff on the metal. The company recently announced it's laying off 1,000 employees. 2/3 of Canadians surveyed say they plan to cut back on spending this year. That's a big leap from last year, when about half of those surveyed by TD said they intended to spend less. When you drill down, younger Canadians seem determined to cut by eating out less and reducing retail spending. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar hardly moved. It's at 72.04. West Texas Intermediate up $1.62 to 61.12. Western Canadian Select up 87 cents to 44.97. And the TSX lost 4 points today after a record close yesterday. Those are your business headlines. I'm Morella Fernandez.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
throwing hands, uttering threats, and sneaking onto flights.
Those are some of the incidents reported to be caused by disruptive air passengers on Canadian flights last year. CTV's Scott Hurst reports.
We're talking rage at cruising altitude and sometimes even before flights get off the ground. Canadian transportation authorities logged more than 100 reports of disruptive air passengers last year. The incidents caused numerous flights to be delayed, diverted, or turned back to the gate. In many cases, the passengers causing the disturbances were arrested or escorted off the plane by police. The 114 reports include a wide range of bad behavior, including refusing to return to a seat, vaping on board, uttering threats, assault, and indecent exposure, just to name a few. 45 of the 114 reports were filed by flights departing or arriving in Calgary, by far the most for any Canadian city. It is, as we know, a major WestJet hub, followed by Toronto with 27 reports and Vancouver with 21. In a statement, a WestJet and Sunwing spokesperson said the airlines have zero tolerance for this behavior. Air Canada tells CTV News the number of reported incidents is a small fraction of the millions of flying customers every year. The reports of bad behavior, however, are actually trending downwards over the past few years, but union reps for flight attendants tell CTV News cases of disruptive passengers often go unreported, depending on the severity of the incidents. Scott Hurst, CTV News, Toronto.
The surging Toronto Maple Leafs are in Utah tonight looking for their 5th straight win.
Breaking, he's got Nylander on the wing, a shot, scores! Holy mackerel! The Leafs win it in overtime!
Toronto's latest win was a big one. They beat the league-leading Colorado Avalanche 4-3 in overtime last night. The Buds are now in the top wildcard spot in the Eastern Conference. Tonight's opponent, the Mammoth, had their 3-game winning streak snapped on Sunday. Meantime, one of the greatest individual performances in hockey history will be commemorated at Scotiabank Arena January 27th. The Maple Leafs will honor Daryl Sittler nearly 50 years after he scored 10 points in one game. The former captain had 6 goals and 4 assists in a home win against Boston on February 7th, 1976. Sittler broke the record of 8 points in a game previously held by Maurice Richard and Bert Olmsted.
The NHL and its players' union have seen firsthand the unfinished main rink for next month's Olympics. Crews are rushing to complete the arena in time for the Milano Cortina Games. The interior of the venue remains under construction, and with hospitality areas and locker rooms yet to be completed. This past weekend, the league and the Players Association attended a test game there between Italy's top teams. In a joint statement, the NHL and the union said they are pleased with the event and will continue to monitor progress on the remaining work.
Just ahead, trailblazers who helped transform our city, past and present. A new exhibit honors and explores the lives of 52 extraordinary Toronto women.
Tonight, what Donald Trump is saying about Canadian cars and the trade deal.
Canada would love it. Canada wants it. They need it.
The U.S. president's latest shot and the reaction. Tonight on CTV National News, and watch on Crave.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
There's a new exhibition in town honoring 52 women who shaped this city.
Some are well known, others should be. Their stories are being told to showcase their achievements and inspire the next generation. CTV's Jessica Smith has more.
52 women, 52 powerful stories.
It's stories of women throughout living history that have shaped our city.
Titled The 52, the exhibit brings together a collection of artifacts, videos, artwork, and written materials that let you get hands-on and interactive.
So Museum of Toronto does things differently. We're really invested in how to make history both accessible and also rich and inviting.
Free to attend and open to the public, the museum has also partnered with the Toronto District School Board.
So we have hundreds of school children who are coming in who surprisingly spend hours watching these videos and talking to each other about the women and making their own little exhibitions that we invite them to do with artifacts that we found.
Showcasing the trailblazers we know and introducing us to those whose names are less familiar but crucial in the evolution of the city, like Bernice Redmond, Toronto's first Black nurse. nurse.
Ultimately, after almost a 15-year, 20-year struggle, she became the first Black Canadian nurse in our country. So there are those also who wouldn't even register but are so and incredibly impactful.
A showcase of strength, diversity, and determination of those whose contributions helped shape Toronto's past, present, and future. The exhibit also invites people in to participate in part of the display by adding in someone who they think has contributed to the city of Toronto. The 52 will be here at the Museum of Toronto all the way through until May. Jessica Smith, CTV News.
So many incredible women, including our Jessica Smith there. Weather-wise, okay, we're anticipating a big cool down.
Yeah, into tomorrow morning, it's still going to be decently mild, but after that, the cold front swings through and things change in a big way. So here's one more look at what you can expect for tomorrow morning. A little bit of drizzle changing to flurries. And then for these areas under a yellow snow squall watch, it's going to be measurable snow, maybe up to 30 centimeters of additional snow. Here's your Wednesday night at a glance. Look at that temperature drop. Minus 12 degrees, wind chill minus 22. Thursday daytime is cold as well. And a heads up again that we're looking at possible measurable snow Friday morning. Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Lindsay. That's it for us, but be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zarada Almond with their next local newscast at 11:30.
Meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night.